Hi everyone. I'd like to introduce on stage Sonia Wong, Monique Yim, Jiaoming, and Wong Kai Ying for our sexuality, queer culture, and art making talk.
Hi. Oh, hi everyone. So the mic is on, like just to check. And I was like caught buttoning my shirt when Sarah was introducing me. That was quite embarrassing. Okay, so thank you all for taking the time to join this session. And the title of the talk, as Sarah was saying just now, is Sexuality, Queer Culture, and Art Making. So I would like to introduce our panelists today, or like casual chat among friends, because I know like most of them for a very long time.
Yeah.
So starting on the right, Jiaming. Liao Jiaming is a Chinese-born, Hong Kong-based artist. Starting from images, his creative practices expand to different media, including photography, video, installation, and etc. His works usually focus on the topic of urban life, minority group, and living space, questioning the relationship between the real and the virtual, as well as that of the subject and the object. And the second artist, Monique Yim, is an artist and educator who mainly engages in performance, who also works in photography, video, mixed media installation, participatory art, public art, socially engaged community art, film, and theater. Her work largely concerns social, cultural, and gender issues. And last but not least, Wong Kai Ying, KY Wong, is also an artist and writer based in Hong Kong. She is a keen observer of the art community and society, and her work critically reflects on the various social, cultural, and gender issues today through using a wide range of media, from performance to social media platform. And she's very, very active on IG.
Thank you.
Okay, so when I received the topic for today, and I was like very surprised to be like seeing a lot of my friends who I've known and worked together for many years engaged on this talk. This talk was like the theme of this talk struck me as kind of a surprise, because I have known all of you as artists working in various disciplines, working in various fields. I know Monique when she was like performing, mainly engaged in political issues. And I know KY mainly as a curator who works a lot with community as well as on feminist issue. So it is actually a new way for me to think about your work, like as a queer artist, because like we are all queer in different ways. And so for grounding your identity, like tying, like or highlighting that part in your identity, and like drawing a relationship between like your personal identity, your sexuality with your work, for me is kind of a new way for me to understand your work. And when I reflect on it and look at Jiaming's work, like a new acquaintance, I was seeing that all of you are putting your body, like in a way, your queerness, your sexuality, or for Monique, like very physical presence into your work in various ways. So what role does queerness and sexuality play in your artistic practice? Maybe Monique, you would like to start first?
Well, to me, as I always perform, I use the way of performance arts, to express myself, like my queer identity, and also like the relationship between myself and the society, and also maybe express something like the social norm about something like that. So queerness to me, it has been something like being or living outside the mainstream, and also challenging the norm. And also we are living with a lot of possibilities, or also with our fluid body or identities.
Yeah, I remember that like just now when we were chatting, you talked about, because like actually only Wong Kai Ying like graduated, like her first degree is actually in arts. Like Jiaming started as a journalist, and Monique started in cultural studies. So it was like a new thing that you engaged, or you later decided to be engaging in art, and Monique made the choice of putting herself, like because she's mainly a performance artist, right?
Yeah.
And so it reminds me of like a cultural study saying that like cultural is political, or the personal is political. So how did you make the decision of shifting from cultural studies into art, and like bringing such intimate like or immediate topic into your work?
Well, in the very first beginning, I was an activist, and sometimes engaged in a social activity, and in my younger ages, I I concerns more on the cultural or social issues, and then after that, like in these 8 years, I focus my art to explore on the gender issues. Yes, to me, just like I start to feel good to talking something about this issue. So I start to create something for that.
Has
Yeah.
queerness, like, or reflection on your own sexuality, always been something that that concerns you? Have you always been interested in exploring aspects of your queerness and sexuality?
Well, to me, I think I am a lucky one because yeah, like in my family or in my workspace or in the past when I was in school, I feel good and I can be myself to be queer. Yeah, but because I heard a lot of the stories, like some maybe struggling stories
Yes.
in the LGBT community. So I want to express something or say something related to those stories, and they are all happening in our daily lives. Yeah.
So about getting stories out, then I would like go to Gaming, because Gaming started as a journalist. And so how did you make that switch from like journalism into art making?
So, I mean, when I was still a journalism student, I already like, I'm very interested in like writing fictional and like making photography kind of works. And I remember very clearly, like at the end of my college, or at the final year of my university, I felt this like very strong feelings that I don't want to, because as a journalist you are always required to cover the topics or write something from a very neutral and objective perspective, and I started to don't like that anymore. I still want to tell some stories from a very personal perspective. And then, like, because I have some experience in photo making, video making, and then I decided to go for this direction, which allowed me to express something from a very personal perspective. Yeah, that's how I get into this art making.
So was there any hurdles? Like, would probably your friends or teachers be saying, oh, no, like you're getting into something that probably is kind of risky, or like when you started art making, you were like, I remember in one of your earlier work, you were already engaging with like gay relationships, like and so was there any hurdles, like, or was there any challenges? Were people accepting, or were there any like criticism or like obstacles that you faced, like when you were like being quite like bluntly like non-mainstream sexuality?
You mean like before I started to make art, or after this?
After you
this.
start making art.
I don't think I have like really encountered any person who is against what I was doing. But I think I like personally I think a lot, like when I was doing a project that is related to that is talking about Kowloon Park as a cruising spot. I thought a lot, like if I did a project about this, am I actually exposing this secret spot as something like, am I telling this secret places and I expose this to the public? Is that like moral? I was thinking a lot about that. But nobody like was really against me at that point.
Yeah, because like just now when we were chatting, like Jiaming and Monique, we were chatting about like representation and visibility, and in what light? Because like when your work is I would use the word labeled, like when your work is being labeled or seen through the lens of being like queer art created by a queer artist, then it kind of has like a bit of responsibility on your part, right? And yeah, so like is it something that you knew what you're getting into, or is it something that like gradually like makes it apparent to you that actually people do have expectation, and some people do actually try to understand the community, or like for KY, like understand like female sexuality, or what feminism or feminist
I
art
don't
look
understand.
like?
I can never understand.
You can never understand it?
It's always a mystery.
Yeah, so how do you negotiate with that like sense of responsibility, or that like you are being labeled as a representative of your community? Monique or Jiaming?
Well, I think labeling is a interesting thing, yeah, to discuss, and it is a endless discussion. Like yeah, when we make our creation like in the name of queer art or gender issues, then yeah, somehow it is to try to be visible in the community, in the society, or in the art world. And on the other hand, is parallelly, would labeling becoming another form like of othering? Yeah.
So I want to take this opportunity to appreciate and say thank you that we have an actual like public occasion to talk about our sexuality. It's a thing. Because
Yes.
back in 10 years ago when I was still in school, when I was young and then I was surrounded by all the queer friends, I don't find it's an issue. I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I need to be included because I'm existing, right? And then but when I'm getting to university and surrounded by all cisgender and hetero professors,
heteronormative people.
and I want to talk about my romance story, and I don't even get an idea why a long-haired girl, you should find a good man to be with, something like that. And I have to take a long time to explain to them what happened to my entire life. But then after 10 years, you will see there's so many acceptance now, and we are being more visible now due to different peoples of good work, hard work, and efforts like this. And it's not easy. And I want to say that even Jiaming and Monique and every other queer artists need to be very brave to talk about their very personal and intimate sexuality thing inside their work. And it took quite a long time for me to realize that actually you're not that acceptable in the public general audience layer. And then you have to convince them that you are one of them, and then people like you did exist. But then later, when I start my career, and then I work with, for example, Women Festival in Eton, and then with Migrant Pride organization in Hong Kong, when at that time, people realize that, oh, domestic helper also get queer folks, something like that. And I work with the Berlin Gay Museum in the Gulf Institute. Then I found that curatorial and also making artwork is a way to talk about social justice. Not only because when you talk about art, it's expressing yourself. So it's not only art for art's sake, but there is a more connection and also more empowerment that it is the purpose not only talking about ourselves, but to connect with people who need help, who want to voice out and want to be heard. So this is about laboring. I don't very being offended by labels, but I would think of using them. How to reinforce the labels into our identity. Like you cannot really identify that as only one single way. Even in the spectrum of queer, there are so many different types of people. That's why I say I never understand female sexuality. When you get to know a new
that's why we
girl,
keep on
that
exploring,
will be a
right?
whole new story.
Yeah. But then just now you were, I like go back to a bit. Like just now I couldn't take my eyes off the artwork because like they are good work, right? And I was looking at like KY's like I know KY first, but later I know her as the person who caused like a stir with her graduation work at CHK. Which back then it was something that was very controversial, even though it was a very small Polaroid photo of like KY fully naked, like being on the ground, like
12 years ago and still talking now.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
like people
why.
still talk about no, because I was thinking about how far we have come. Like so, you were talking about like being accepted as who you are, and being able to put yourself out there without being stigmatized or whatnot. Like so, this is that work. And I was thinking about like so how far are we? Like how much do you feel accepted? Like from when you started?
I don't think we can make everyone accepting you,
Yeah.
but just to be more comfortable. And what I concern most is safety, to be safer to be yourself in the society, not getting punished or not getting assaulted in the general public. Because when you do work, there's two different layers. People need to know about art. They are willing to take time to understand art. And then the second layer is they okay with queer. They know about queer art. They're willing to listen to queer folks to talk about themselves. So it's much more difficult than you talk about just only art, because you need to talk about your sexuality too. So it's a two-way. Like people in Hong Kong now are more welcoming art. Like people are engaged in different art activities.
Yeah.
Then how much are they paying attention that people, there are LGBTQ plus people near them, maybe just living with them, but they can never come out in the closet. But yeah, and I really hope that, and I can say and really hope that people are being more prepared for something that it's not in their universe yet, but they existed, I have to say. And then I think now with the help of internet, with more collective power, for
and also
example,
more progressive curation.
Yeah, progressive curation, and also activists. I was an activist and journalist. But now Hong Kong, you don't even have a proper journalist or a platform to cover LGBTQ news, which is sad. But everyone can be self-media, you know. We can write about queer art. We can make our own queer art. We can create our own queer show, but also bringing in people with cisgender and hetero and telling them that the world, it's composed by different types of people. I don't need you to include me, but we are together at the same platform and being fair and being safe to say something that we want to voice out.
So because like just now we were talking about more progressive curatorial practice, institution being more welcoming, and that the general public have like a certain habit of consuming art like still in the city, which leads to the second question. Just now we were talking about like the art world composing of like many different elements, be it institution, large art shows such as this, like auction-led like art events, galleries. But then on the other hand, there is like institution, collectors, like universities, and like engaging with the general public. And so in recent years, like Monique says that, like probably, I do not know, of course, like you have your own personal reason for starting to engage more with sexuality and queerness. But then probably in the recent like 5 to 10 years, I think it's fair to say that like there is increasing awareness about like gender and sexuality and queerness in like art world like across, right? But then like would you feel like that there is that increasing tendency of like labeling you or putting you in a box like as a queer artist, and that probably, I do not know, like probably, would there be cases where people were coming to you, approaching you, commission a work, I won't say simply because, but especially requesting you that you work on like a certain kind of topic? Or that would you feel like, oh, when you're talking about other things, like probably if you have a work that you aim to talk about other things, but probably people would still be seeing it through the certain lens. Is there like a struggle? Maybe KY, you can start first. Like people label you as a feminist or like someone who is very liberal, and then like I remember there was like one case where there was that expectation of nudity, right?
Yeah.
And so would you find that a problem, or have you run into any situation like this?
I just receive like if your IG is public, you'll receive haters comment. I don't know if you are, maybe I'm just being annoying, so people send me haters comment. But I just received recently an anonymous message to an institution I'm working with now for the Touch Art Festival. It is a show curated for visually impaired artists, and also other artists to collab together. And it's with a very long history, and I'm only the curator. And then, but the comment sending to CCCD is a Cultural Development Center, and it's only for me. It's nothing about the show. And it's saying that, are you consuming visually impaired people to build your own aura, or to build your own fame, something like that? And one time I received a comment saying that, oh, don't pretend to be queer because it's just a trend. But then after I received quite a lot of this kind of comment, I was like, and I talked with my core friends and also the artists involved in the shows, and we were like, so what? What if we consume, like the way that we consume our identity, it's something that you can't do because you are never us. And that is a problem of representation. You know, if you ask a visually impaired person to act visually impaired in a cinema. Why not? But no one ever thought about finding the real one to say. Like the same issue happened for queer people. When a straight guy pretend to be a gay guy, they would say that, oh, you act so well, right? You really look like a gay. But when there are so many examples that queer actors or actresses being straight all the time in every movie, in every drama, no one actually recognize or credit them. It's a vice versa question. So it's the same thing. So if you can consume the identity or the issues like me, just go ahead. And I think you must go through all the struggles that we have been through too.
And what about Jiaming?
I think I started to think more about the word queer and queerness this year. I think. I mean, it's kind of like a second wave of self-identification. So before you have to come out and self-identify as a gay man, and then to me, I think to self-identify as a queer person, it's like a self-identification for the second time. And I just think, before I was doing artwork just basically based on my own experience as a gay man, and then now I think, since I think more about what queer is and what queerness is, and I think this is definitely something that is applicable to most of the people who's living in this world. It's about like how you position yourself in the society. Yeah, I think that's what my thought on.
Yeah, and
on
also drawing
queerness.
from your own lived experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm like maybe Monique also.
Yeah.
Sorry.
To me, I feel happy or comfortable with the name of like queer artists like in these years. Well, it was like a process. Yeah, at the first beginning, I just try to do something that's I want, because I would like to concern this issue, and then after some time, people like they will invite you or commission you because of this area that you are exploring. But yeah, to me, I feel happy because being visible, or we can show our identity, in the society is a good thing.
It's powerful too.
And
And
also,
I receive a lot of students, especially young students, hesitation to tell their parents about their doubts on sexuality, saying that I am touched by your work in the exhibition and I feel connected, and knowing that there are the same people in the world like her or him. And that saved a lot of people, because you see, you can read the news recently. Like
Yes.
2 secondary girls, they can't find help, and then we lost them. And there's so many education program in the art scene, so you don't know who you are connecting with. And I find that's the social justice things. That's the power of appearance.
and this also empowered people
Yeah.
or our community or people around us. Maybe they have to they cannot come out because of the stresses like family or workplace or religious, something like that. And this also remind me one point that maybe in the art world or in the society, we have to remember there's some people also within our community that's like very marginalized. They are maybe the intersectional background or with a diverse background, maybe with different physical abilities
Without
or
resources,
races,
yes.
classes, ages, something like that. So, they are also being and living with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that brings me to like another point, because like all of your work are quite political in many ways, like gender politics, sexual politics, or like social issues, and like all of you quite embraced or emphasized that aspect of your work. And so, like, because there is, like, because I myself is a published poet, and I do write about things, like, in life in general, but also there are times where I write about politics or social phenomenon or issue, but there's always that struggle, for me at least, like, there's always that struggle of, like, how do I balance the advocacy and the artistic? Is there ever was there ever a problem for you?
I think there are some art critic actually ask me or ask people like if you and also on TV too. For example, for other philosophical, YouTube podcasts, that is so that is a hype recently, and saying that if you make art as a tool, then it's not simply art. So art is for art's sake, something like that. So people actually always questions not only us, for example, Luke Chang, and saying that if you are doing advocacy, then it's an advocacy tool. It's a protest tool. It's not art. Art is just for appreciation, for pleasure, something like that. But I don't agree with that actually. So and I don't agree people saying that LGBTQ is not politics. And I quite surprised that people doesn't really realize that every kind of human rights issue, every meal you eat, every dollar you spend, everything, it's micropolitics. And
Or trying to find toilet. Just
yeah, it's everywhere. And even the toilet is the battlefield for us too, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so I would just tell those people who comment about that, it's good for you too. So if the world getting better, it's benefit for everyone. And if arts, the ultimate intention and purpose that art is want to make this world a better place, just don't stop people for doing things for good intentions. And art is just a creative way, and it's a realization of creative minds. And I don't want to frame everyone's creative act or intervention into definition, defining them if they are art, if they are protest, something like that. The world doesn't happen like this. And a surprise always happens when we don't define things, right? So if we have a need or there's an urge that we want to do something, just use something that you are practical with, you are happy with. Some people are happy with doing art, right, Jamie? Yeah. Then we make art, and that's easy.
Yeah, this kind of is a kind of human progress, I think, and like
Yeah.
art is life is art. Yeah, and also let me. I'm thinking of the queer aesthetics. Yeah, it is a proposition that like we use art to reframe, to disrupt the world.
Yeah, to challenge.
Yeah, to challenge the known world. Yeah, how we see it and how we tackle it or explore those questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Jiaming just now. I like you were talking about like your transition from journalism to art, and you said something that's very touching. Can you like you said you find a new way of talking about like those things.
I
through
think,
art.
like for example, when you are like trying to write an article about on a specific topic, you always need to be like very on point. You need to be very poignant, pointing out what you're talking about. But when it comes to making art, you can be like very subtle. It doesn't need to be exactly on the point. You can like try to manage to cover many different topics in one piece. I think if you make an artwork like that, I think it's actually kind of open up an opening to some people who is actually maybe not interested in this topic in the beginning, and then you kind of telling him or her something new, and I think that's in my opinion what is good about art making and art appreciation.
The capacity
to
tell a long story or untold story.
Yeah. And like what KY was saying, sometimes you don't know what this artwork was really telling or saying about. You just feel very connected. I think that's the power of art.
Yeah. And audience actually project themselves into our stories. And it happens all the time.
Yeah, and I was thinking about like just now because we were like going a bit back to like the art consumption practice in Hong Kong, because you were talking about like there are still discussion about or there's still like reservation amount like institution or amount like especially of course like art market, it works in a quite a different way. Because it is like a profit generating in the end. But also like the Hong Kong public has been probably educated in a way, even though they are much more open to going to art shows like this, and like museums become much more crowded than when I was like younger. Like it was like very cold in museums because there were not enough people. now it's not the case.
Not enough air conditioning.
Yeah, now it gets stuffy because like there were so many people. But then there is still like certain like habits of consuming art, or there's still certain assumptions about art like having to be like aesthetically pleasing over like for example like Jia Ming and Monique like and probably also KY like have been talking about like how they were encountering difficulty for their work to be like a job opportunity, or their work to be, of course, like some of your work are also at the margin of like if we talk about collection and art market, because they are of like special format that is like not of like the conventional or traditional types. And so how are you like contrasting, like because like a lot of you are also working like outside of Hong Kong, so like what are some of your hopes like for how the scene will be changed, that like probably people will be more accepting to like, how do you say, like works that like works that are like more obviously dealing with social issues. Just now Monique and Jia Ming was talking about. Do you want to like elaborate a bit on like the differences that you have experienced?
Because Monique is doing performance art. It's marginalized, marginal. You know? Yes. Yeah. I also want to learn about it.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I'm happy to see that nowadays, whatever in Hong Kong or in overseas, there are lots of more and more projects, exhibitions, or festivals that are issue-based, like gender issue-based or queer issue-based. Then, yeah, I think it is a good news for us. Well, even like they commissioned me, like in the name of a queer artist, but this is good to show this issue and be make it visible between among the society. And and like performance art, a very marginalized form.
Yeah, because it's also very temporal, right? Like you can only like see it and then it's gone.
Yeah. Like in my artistic choice recently, I started to do more like photography. Yeah, and to try to make the discussion to be like in a portable way, mobilize it. Yeah, and maybe you can keep it longer, like in a gallery or in a show. Yeah, because performance art is something at that moment.
Yes.
It's a kind of live art. But this is very good to like, because it's putting my body to be in the front line. Yeah, the most intimate, the close and intimate way. Yeah, to present or represent the identity of the body of mine.
Yeah. That relationship is very irreplaceable, like your physical presence, and especially when, for example, of course nowadays we get to know like more and more queer folks around, like in our lives. But probably for that person, they come for live art, but then they end up like knowing a queer artist who probably might or might not be dealing with queer subjects in their work, and probably it would be the first time they have ever met like a queer artist, right? And so like presence is like something that is very very precious. Like now that we don't have to do it hybrid or online, I'm very happy. Yeah. I'm just like overwhelmed with joy being able to sit down and chat with my friends. So I think like the time is good. Is there anything that you want to talk about, like from our chat just now?
I'm thinking about, when I imagine the future, I hope that in a curatorial way we can provide more safe space and more imagination for bringing more queer artists, or we don't need to make a queer exhibition, just an exhibition.
Yeah.
And then, but you can talk about anything you want to talk to, and then you can treat us or treat our work in many other ways, not just because of our sexuality, but whatever it helps, I can take it. Like, I welcome every kind of suggestions or collaborations. Like, at the moment when we take a step further, I think things getting started to change, and I like to see changes, and I think, and I believe in collective decisions and power. That more and more of our peer just stand together and then to make things that it's supporting each other, and this is very important to make a support group within us. Yeah.
Yeah, I do see the power of working at different positions and levels because, like, I do like. I really appreciate. Of course, I didn't know much of your like personal like solo work. Like, I know you mainly as like a curator, and
Thank you.
think that your curatorial work is like created very like created like good space and also like space for good conversation
And thank you for your
around.
studies. So this is a compliment
Yeah,
section,
like
right?
complimentary
No.
for a session.
Yeah.
And so like working with different institute, like at that moment, at this moment in Hong Kong, do you feel like there is like increased opportunity for queer artists to be doing the work or not?
As an artist,
As
I
an
think
artist.
we are privileged. We are privileged compared with other
Yeah,
working
kind of. Yeah.
Like in different fields.
environments and different fields. I got a lot of like friends working in government. They can't even expose their sexuality, right? But everyone knows. But just don't talk on the table, because it will prohibit her from promoting or him from getting welfare. Like they can apply for apartment, they can get tax refund, but actually everyone knows that they are married, you know, somewhere overseas. So it's a metropolitan, right, Hong Kong, but in the sector of sexuality and gender, there's still a lot of space and a long way to go. But when arts are highly supported by public fund and it's public owned, it's a government museum or it's a museum that is open for everyone, I think the management and the curator team of these institutions and museums, they also have to consider the risk of bringing other attacks and comments from, for example, different religion parties, different parental groups, you know, schools, and then asking why are you putting this in our sponsored venue? Because we are also the stakeholders of the museums, right?
taxpayers, right?
And you know, if I am the government, I won't take the risk to be complained, right? So just show more kindness and being more open-minded when you see something that you've never seen. Because it's weird when you see something that you've never seen. For us, we will learn and you will be humble, right? You discover, oh, it's great, there's something new. But when it comes to gender and sexuality, and they will say, don't show me, it's obscene. It's like this. So I feel quite weird. But I think that art itself, it's already very flexible and very welcoming, and people are being trained to be not that surprised to see new things because they expect new things, right? So just utilize the possibilities of art, then we will see good things happen.
Yeah, and art somehow lets us to touch on the taboos.
Yeah.
And it is also interesting that what are taboos? Actually, when you think that it is a taboo, then it is a taboo. Just
Yeah.
like what you think of those issues.
Yes.
Yeah, because like I was thinking about like how do you say canonical art, like or arts that we are considered like masterpieces. Like when I look at Van Gogh, I see like a very troubled mind. So would you call him like a mental illness artist, right? Or when you see his work, like would you think about the mental illness aspect? Or if like one person seeing his work and like remember the mental illness, like the trouble that he has been through, the challenges that have been through, then probably it's already like something that is nice. But so like I mean I'm still like wrapping my head around like the like labeling, whether it is enabling or it is limiting, but probably we would never have like an answer for that. Yeah.
But I found it like really actually quite interesting that I was doing some like research on the maybe not contemporary artworks, but more like pop culture kind of like theater kind of things. They were actually like a lot more works or pop culture production that is related to queer culture, maybe like 20 years ago in Hong Kong, and I was actually quite surprised to see that. I mean, because they're actually very, very straightforward. And I don't know if it is because at that time they were considered kind of like underground culture and subculture, and now people are talking about it as like a mainstream thing. That is an interesting thing that I recently encountered.
Yeah, I also like so recently the film Anita Mui came out and people were talking about like the transgressive like artistic acts that they were doing, and Leslie Cheung. And yeah, indeed, like I was like the Hong Kong pop culture scene was indeed much more like seemingly much more open and much more transgressive. In terms of the artistic possibility.
Yeah, and the BL drama series, the Thai hype, you know, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, but then like it is now getting like more mainstream. But then for me, like as like a cultural critic, I do observe like probably because of the instability and people's uncertainty towards the future, there are like at least in terms of like I don't know policing female sexuality, like at least like my field of expertise, like I see like tensions. Like I am optimistic on one hand, but then I do see like underlying tensions, like potentially, I don't know, like wanting to seize control once again. Do you feel that in your line of work?
After 2020. I do feel it's a good time to talk more on gender and sexuality issue, because I can't talk about any other things.
Yeah,
Right.
and like and our daily life is a battle. Like I mean, regardless,
Yeah.
And I'm happy because you know what is happier than romance relationship? Yes, then I can talk as much as I want now, and then put my future projection onto something that I can enjoy at this moment and live with this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, so art is also like where like flexibility, right? Just now we were talking about.
Yeah, we can always switch our mind on anything that we want to talk to,
Yeah.
but you always find trace that what actually shaped us today, and you can't deny who you are and what you
Yeah.
are, and it's very popular now to say that you can let the work talk itself, right? You can even sing it, yeah. And if someone don't really want to talk about their personal thing, they can using the ambiguity of the artwork to hide their trauma, but at the same time to relieve their stress. Yeah, and it's a healing process. It's always a healing process, and it's a compromise to yourself too. That to let go something, and it's a good chance now because and when we talk about there are less media that cover LGBTQ stories now in the general public, then we just do it ourselves. And I encourage everyone just to talk about, just to repost anything that you like, tweet it, and then put it on story, and then tag everyone. So it's all about appearance. When no one actually read the news, then they read your social
Feed,
media, right? Yeah. So there's always alternative ways to make things happen, just like art. It's always about creativity and alternatives.
I want to say that someone has been calling you nonstop.
I don't know.
Okay.
Do we have a Q&A section?
Yes, we do. I was going to like stop you and move to the Q&A
Yeah,
session.
please.
Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, so we can open up the floor to any audience questions. Just raise your hand. I think the
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Sonia. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciated this talk, and it was really interesting. I just wanted to talk again about this question of labeling, and it was really interesting the way that you were discussing kind of the limiting aspect of labels as well as the like liberating aspect of labels, and how I suppose my question is in like the specificity of like the Hong Kong art context, and like how you feel people respond specifically to like the label of like queerness, as you were saying, how like the shift between like identifying like as a gay man and then as a queer person, I thought that was really interesting because I feel that labels there's a lot of transitioning that's happening between labels within the LGBTQ community, and I just wanted to know a bit more about that within the specific context of Hong Kong.
Anyone? May I start?
Yeah.
Maybe you can
Yeah, because I
elaborate
just
a
now,
bit.
yeah, like so he brought up a very good point. Like, so the context of Hong Kong, because you are all working between countries. Obviously, you were like a lot of international engagement, like working outside of Hong Kong, and obviously the way that LGBTQ identity or queer identity is being understood is quite different. Like how we are all, like we probably have 4 different ways of understanding our own queerness, right? And that of like, for example, a certain collector or a certain institution like commissioning a work, their projection of queerness and your understanding of queerness, or the general understanding of queerness in Hong Kong, contrasting, comparing that with like that of other places might be different. So how do you negotiate that, right? Was there ever like cultural shock, or that like also that is what you expect me to be, right? Like, is there any moment like that?
Cultural shock. Yes. When you find something very eye-catching or arouse a lot of discussion or complaints in Hong Kong, you will often find that it's nothing outside of Hong Kong. Yeah. For example, even in China, the LGBTQ scene is more interesting. And there are so many self-expressing work, but not in Hong Kong. This is the most surprising thing that I found. And when we are saying that we are international art hub in Hong Kong, but in different layers, for example, cultural and gender politics, and other policies like sexuality policy, etc. Are we that prepared to welcome different kind of cultural shock in Hong Kong? Because we have so many established museums now representing Hong Kong, or not only Hong Kong, representing Asia even. But you are not actually connected with the world with the same value, or they don't even know what happened outside of Hong Kong. That is quite embarrassing, I would say.
And like Jia Ming and Monique.
To me, like when I was talking about being like the difference between being a gay man and being a queer person, I think it's more or less about stereotypes or the lifestyle that when you are coming out to people saying that I'm gay, and people have this kind of stereotype that they project onto you, that you must be something like someone very muscular or like with good physique, this kind of impression. And I think I really went through that process of trying to redefine myself through art making or talking to different people or connecting to the community. Yeah.
And your work is like challenging that, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah,
did
yeah.
works on like challenging like the idea of like beauty and physique and attractiveness, AI learning like through dating app photos, generating images. That was like really, really like I think it's really provocative. Yeah. And Monique?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about the trends or the regional culture issues, yes, maybe between different countries, we have different layers or trends or perspective on queerness or LGBT. But in my observation and experience, there's something that we have the collective experience or shared common experience that, like I remember that in some years ago, not a very long time, like in 2017, and when I was performing a work in Berlin that is talking about gay marriage. At that time in Germany, this law hadn't been legalized yet. Same situation with Hong Kong. But after some months ago, the law has been legalized at the country. And so I think somehow we we share common thing between different regions of
Yeah, I also then I also like makes me think about the integrity. Like how do we stand for a certain experience? Because like in my line of work, like academia as well as like LGBTQ advocacy, there is that tension or there is that comparison or thinking that, oh, like so now we're living in like a very backward place, and like this understanding of LGBTQ or like of your queer identity is like not good enough.
Yeah.
But then like just now you were saying that you were bringing your case like to like a international audience or bringing it to audience like from other parts of the world, and there are actually things that enables you, like your own experience enables you to see like probably certain things that need to be worked on, or like appreciate a certain thing even more, or like to tell people about like, oh, there are actually different rendering of like the queer experience or queer identity around the world. And also probably like another question from the audience. Yay, no need for the fishbowl.
Actually, I'm pretty appreciate what the artists have done, like for us, like to like what she said before, like it's quite engaging sometimes when you are as an audience to look at the artwork like that. But the thing is, like I'm still concerning like how the art like talk to some people not that like would go to the galleries to look at the artwork, or like Monique as in performance artist, like is actually have a certain time of period or specific time and space that people could engage with. So how do you think that like you could talk to someone, or especially in Hong Kong, like very local people, like they will always have a phrase that like 藝術嘅我識條鐵咩, like something like that. So how do you like talk to people like them, like to express, or like, I do agree that like it comes to the pop culture, like Wang Jiaying has been mentioned about the BL drama, but the thing is like they look at them like as a star, so that's why they appreciate that, they like it. But the thing is like that can't be my son. Like that's the problem. So how you think that like your work or your art like get out of the galleries and like a mushroom or fungus in the city, like people can have actual like engaging with.
So this is
something like that.
Yeah,
Two
it's
questions.
a very good question.
Yeah, and multi-layered questions.
Yeah, and multi-layered questions. And the first one, it's about hierarchy and about barrier, which is hilarious because we are in an art fair.
Yes. Yeah, we should have done it in Saiyan Chai or somewhere.
But still, we have the chance. Public can be in here, and you know the recently about the Teletubbies, and it actually allows people to talk about how you handle art with kids.
What about Teletubbies?
You don't really know.
I don't know. I'm not on social media, so that's one
like
thing.
the kids, the Teletubbies fell and it fall into pieces, and the kids was frightened, and how the parents and the organizer should take care with the incident. Anyway, but yeah, this is not only the responsibility for queer artists, but I agree that it is institution and people who get the money should have fulfilled their job. For example, curators and other museums, and you can actually talk more. And then that's why now artists need to talk, and then you see us on different media, different newspaper, and then if you don't talk for yourself, someone will talk for you.
Yeah,
right?
we 拋頭露面 all the time.
Yeah. It's part of our job and part of our duties for artists. And if I can be a very good artist, the work talks itself, and people will have to spread your words. And so the hierarchy and the barrier that we need to work with. But within our core group, there are so many internal conflicts that we're now trying to work on. Like, you don't have to be well educated, you don't have to be muscular, and you don't have to be beautiful to be an LGBTQ. You are still one of us. And it's also class thing. And so we are actually dealing with different kind of problems at the same time. even now, when we talk about we represent LGBTQ people, we have to think about who you are, why you are qualified to do so. What is your position? Is it because you can speak English? Is that because you make art?
It's
So that-
definitely because I can speak English.
yeah. Yeah, but it's not, it should not be like this. Like, even, so if you are queer, then you are queer. And I hope during the moment when we spread the words, people disagree with your word, then they will come out and say something. And this is also very
Good
precious, yes, that I see someone, that I know about someone. And I don't hate like this kind of objections, because I learn from it, and then I actually connect with them. Always say connect, yeah. And make friends, not only make friends, but just intertwine with different sector of the society and diverse people in the world. And it is also the fun part of art, despite all the the standards that you have to meet.
And I know
Yeah.
that like almost all of you are working with community arts in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
Monique,
Yeah.
do you
Because you
wanna-
always need to go into the crowd to perform.
Yeah, like on the street, in the public space.
Yes.
Yeah, and to
Yeah.
try to interact, with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think like one of the things that you were asking about is about literacy and how art is not reaching out to people. But then like obviously all of you are making like huge efforts into making art accessible, increasing people's literacy, but also like taking the initiative of walking into the crowd and to like engage with them, right?
Yeah, I think try to break the boundaries or the walls, between people. Whatever we talk about art, or just like simply just like have a conversation. Yeah, it's very good already.
And Jiaming writes too. Yeah.
And I mean, I can share an experience. Like when I was doing my solo exhibition last year in JCCAC, I mean, it was, I think, on the last day of the exhibition. I was there just staying there, trying to stay until the very last minute of the exhibition. And then an auntie who just came into the exhibition, and she saw my work, and she doesn't understand about the works at all. And she just tried to talk to me to understand what I was doing. And she talked to me for about like an hour, and
Wow.
at the end, I mean, she left after our conversation, and then she came back with something written on his mobile phone. So because I was telling her that I was not confident about my body, that's why I did this piece of work. And then she was saying something like, you should be proud of your body, something like that. And I think that's, I mean, it's very touching for me, and I think for her it's definitely an opportunity to make, I don't like to use the word educate, but definitely something that will change what he thinks about what LGBT
Discover,
is. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so like that precious moment of connection. And I think a lot of the times we talk about appreciation and literacy, but it's also like pure enjoyment, right? Like
Yeah.
when you see something, it impacts you, art impacts you in a very immediate way. And that is like something that is human and also universal.
Yes, especially during a suffocated situation, during pandemic and
Yeah.
thing. You can't even use dating app. Where you go if you match someone, right?
Yeah.
Because Jiaming's work is about dating app. So, yeah, and I hope people will. But for us artists, we should put our ego away, and then being more welcome and friendly too. Yeah, it's changed. Time changed, and every
Yeah, and
practice
harnessing new
changed.
medias as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you all for taking the time to join us as this panel today. There will be more panel like coming up. So this would be the end of this session. If you want to talk to the artists, feel free. I'm like pimping them. And yeah, so thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you all once again to Asia Society for inviting us to this like very joyous occasion. Thanks, Sarah.